Hello. This week I want to talk to you about something called the emotional freedom technique. Now, emotions are things that very often drive our actions. Now, sometimes this is wonderful, but other times it's not so helpful. But the reality is that very often strong emotions can lead to us feeling helpless, unable to control things, and can lead to actions that, in retrospect, we know weren't the right thing to do. There is nothing wrong with feeling emotions. This is not about trying to repress emotions. Actually, if there is something going on that merits a strong emotional reaction, that's absolutely wonderful. You need to go with it. So if you're one of the many people, certainly in the UK, who have been, absolutely, shocked by the recent death of the Queen, I know because I'm going through all sorts of emotions. I'm not a particularly strong royalist, but there are a lot of emotions involved because it's a major change. And major changes are often linked with emotions. They can be very chaotic. But also, strong feelings and strong emotions can become habitual. And what the emotional freedom technique seeks to do is not to say, I'm not feeling this. It's to say, I'm feeling this, but you know what? That's okay. I still love me. Where this can be helpful is in a number of different areas. Going back to the topic of last week's, if you've got chronic pain and you're suffering from pain, the feelings associated with the fact that you have that pain can be extremely strong. If you have any form of addiction, and by addiction I mean any thought pattern that drives you towards unhelpful behaviours, whether it's spending too much money, drinking too much coffee, taking illegal drugs, drinking too much, then what this technique can do is help you deal with the pain, but say, do you know what? I still love me. If you are struggling with the memory of past traumas, childhood traumas, and there's something that still affects you and infect you in an ongoing way, if you've got post-traumatic stress, then the emotional freedom technique is one way that you can utilise to diffuse the feelings, to break the link between the feeling and the action, and still saying, you know what? I still love me. Now, the emotional freedom technique is sometimes called the tapping technique. I'm going to tell you now, if you haven't seen it, it looks bonkers. And it really is the sort of thing that probably you're only going to want to do somewhere that's reasonably private, or, where you're surrounded by the people who know what you're doing. But it can be very effective. So whether you want to deal with your cravings for the wrong sort of food, deal with your cravings for alcohol, deal with feelings of powerlessness in the face of great grief or great trauma. Whatever it is you want to do, this technique is for you. So to start off with, normally when there is a strong emotion associated with something, you can grade it. And right now, I would like you to grade the strength of feeling that's associated with, or that grade the distress that you feel related to the craving, the grief, the past trauma, whatever it is. And grade that with a score from 1 to 10, where 1 is it's not really affecting me at all, through to 10, where it means the distress associated with the feeling is so strong, it's affecting every part of your daily life. So take a moment to just analyse just now, just how you feel about whatever it is that is causing the strong emotions, how distressed you are by these emotions. If at the moment you haven't got pain, you're not particularly troubled, don't worry. This video will be here for you to come back to when you have got a problem. So still sit there, still watch it, because it'll teach you what to do. So now you've got an idea of how distressing this issue is for you, right here, right now. The next thing you need to do is get a setup phrase. Now the setup phrase will be something along the lines of, even though I have this pain, have this painful memory, have this craving, have this great grief, whatever it is. And the setup phrase is, now I need to decide what I'm going to use. No, I'll pick one that might be appropriate to everyone else. Even though I have this craving, because cravings for cigarettes, food, alcohol are a very common reason to use this. But pick whatever works for you. I'm going to use, so even though I have this craving, I still completely and utterly love and approve of myself. Now, just say that phrase to yourself a couple of times, even though I have this craving, or whatever you're using in place of craving. Even though I have this, I still completely and utterly love and approve of myself. Just take a minute to see how that makes you feel. And then we're going to start the actual process. So, get 2 fingers and the hand, and you're going to tap with the 2 fingers on the karate chop point of the other hand, and you're going to say the complete phrase. Even though I have this craving, I still completely and utterly love and approve of myself. Just repeat that a couple of times, tapping on that point. Okay, now I want you to start tapping in the middle of, we're going to do more taps. It's going to be about 7 taps in each place. And as you tap, you're going to say the first part of your setup phrase. So, even though I have this craving, move to the middle of the brow. Even though I have this craving. Even though I have this craving. Then move under the nose. Even though I have this craving. Tap the point of the chin. even though I have this craving. Tapping the salt cellar point, even though I have this craving. Then raise one arm up and tap just underneath the arm, even though I have this craving. Then come back to tapping on the karate chop point. And this time, you're not going to say anything. I want you to roll your eyes to the right and then roll your eyes to the left. Look up, look down. Count from 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hum something. Happy birthday is quite popular. And then you're going to go back to the tapping up here. Even though I have this craving. 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 Even though I have this craving, I still completely, utterly love and approve of myself. Then look up, look down, roll your eyes in both directions. Count to 1 to 10 out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hum something. Even though I have this craving, I still completely and utterly love and approve of myself. Then just take a moment and work out how strong that feeling is now. Now, I well remember when I taught this to a friend of mine who thought she'd tried all the techniques and nothing she could do could help her. And at the start of the process, she graded her feelings about an 8. I took her through that process. I said, okay, how strong's the feeling now? And she opened her mouth and I could tell she was going to say, oh, it's not much change. She opened her mouth and then did a goldfish illustration. And then went, oh my God, that's so weird. It's about a 1 or a 2. It's not even there, really. Oh my God, that's so weird. For the scientifically minded, how does it work? Not got a clue. As with so many of the techniques that I teach, but to be honest, as with an awful lot of medications that we use, we don't really know why they work. Just putting that out there. But that doesn't matter. There have been studies done that have shown that, I think it was teachers who were suffering from depression in Canada. And they did a trial of the emotional freedom technique and they discovered that it reduced their depression. It possibly works by breaking the links between the two sides of the brain temporarily, giving you a chance to reset. But don't quote me on that. I genuinely don't have an idea. But one thing I do know is that the side-to-side eye movement that you kind of get when you roll your eyes, there's a well-documented, accepted treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, which involves moving your eyes from one side to the other. So we may not understand how it works, but we know it can be effective. Now you've seen it, I'm sure you'll realise why I say it's not the sort of thing you possibly want to practice in public.